Look, what can I say? I'm from Fiji. I'm not going to say we, because even though we are from Fiji, Dwayne hates being late. He's such a stickler. But I am always running late, and not this time. Well, we're not really running late. I don't have to be there till 6 o'clock. But hello. How are you? Well, yes, we're almost there.
Yep.
It's just that I had to do some stuff called work this afternoon, which unfortunately sometimes can just take our time. But anyway, we are almost about to begin our evening, and so we are hoping that you can join us on this wonderful night, and we'll show you what we're doing in a moment. We're almost there. It's almost like I'm going to just run in and rush on stage. But look, I think you really should show what's going on.
I think I should check this out.
Okay, great. Now, so we've got to go into the entrance. I can't remember where the entrance is. It's in the front. But this is not what we're here for. The entrance should always be in the front, I guess. So that goes without saying. I haven't been to the museum for a long time. I used to, like, you know, you go to these things, and then, yes, here we go. And then you can't keep going to them. But anyway, we're here, and we're almost on. And, oh look, it's just one of those things. Oh, look at the footprints. We're about to run out of footprints. Oh, we can watch our footprints. Look up there. It's the beauty of live television. It's all just so exciting. You never know what's going to happen. Like, you know, if I don't watch where I'm going, I may trip. Bloopers as they happen. But what can I tell you? This is just the excitement. Oh, we're also doing a live on let's just turn on Gary so you can listen to him, because Gary is the musician you don't know, and you should. So turn it on to Gary.
See, maybe I could blame it on you. Yeah, maybe I could blame it on you. You've got a lot of options. They love you cause you're young. I don't want you to blame it on me, but baby you gon' blame it on me, cause I'm poor at planning. I don't speak Spanish, I'm not so worthy, baby, as I might seem. And I'm not no sugar daddy when it comes to money. I might never be a millionaire, but would you be getting worse out there? Do you enjoy your 20s with or without me? Do you enjoy your 20s more with or without me? Do you enjoy your 20s of finding someone else, the trouble of finding out from someone else, that danger is real, yeah. The danger is real. Did you enjoy your 20s with or without me? Do you enjoy your 20s more with or without me? Do you enjoy your 20s with or without me? Do you enjoy your 20s more with or without me?
My daddy.
Thank you. This next one is called So Sick of Dot Dot Dot. See, I've been on fire. I barely even touched the bottle, but you've been on my mind. It's a work in progress, yeah. I know that you got over me, but I'm still getting over how every part of us is now one was. And I know I shouldn't bring it up, cause all it does is hurt me. But even when I don't, it just hurts. And I'm so sick of crying and arguing, here we start again. I'm sick of all of it, everything, even the little things. I'm sick of kisses and all of your cold wishes. I'm so sick of missing, I'm so sick of missing you. I'm sick of crying and arguing, here we start again. I'm sick of all of it, everything, even the little things. I'm sick of kisses and all of your cold wishes. I am so sick of missing, I am so sick of missing you. I am so sick of missing you. I am so sick of missing you. I'm sick of kisses and all of your cold wishes. I am so sick of missing, I am so sick of missing you. Okay, this one's called All of My Friends. I can't pretend we're good as friends. It's clear we only know how to be more or less. Now I can't decide on when to deny it's yours and mine, but these should be our friends. All of my friends are your friends, but all of my friends are your friends now. All of my friends are your friends, but all of my friends are your friends now. Like where did everybody go? Guess they got busy. Hey, did you realize it's been 2 years since he's outdoors? Baby, were you even cautious, or was it reckless? Like, were you playing it safe? Was he jealous? Can't even call you one of my exes. I wish the message had delivered sooner. Was there really even ever enough in the first place? My recollection is poor, I'm sure we had a couple of moments, but never the first day. Like, would you mind if I said I miss you? I should've kissed you first, but I miss you. Won't go to parties in case I see you, and then it all comes back like I need you, cause all of your friends are my friends, and all of my friends are yours. All of your friends are my friends, and all of my friends are your friends, cause all of your friends are my friends. All of your friends were my friends, but all of my friends, they are friends Cause all of your friends were my friends, but all of my friends, they are friends now. All of your friends were my friends, all of my friends, they are friends now.
Alright, darling. So we'll just, we're going to have a welcome to country at 6 o'clock. And then we're going to go into the panel. And then, of course, we'll take a walk around after that. And like talk about the fashion and what's happening. It's still early here. The evening is until 9 o'clock. Yay.
Beautiful. All right, cool. So we don't need these yet.
Not yet. No,
So maybe after the panel?
yeah, after the panel with the mics on, because we've got microphones
Yeah.
for the panel.
So I'll just take everyone around and
Yeah,
show stuff?
Because before we do that, I actually want to talk about all those things. So we do have to go and see, if you want to actually go into the museum and take everyone through, we can do that as well. But right now I think we're getting
This
close
next
to,
one's called The Long Run.
so let's just go for a little walk. Let's go for a little walk ourselves.
I've been warning you about my shortcomings and all of my not so secrets. Is it worth the trying to keep it? Everyone seems to know.
Let's go and have a quick look
I started slipping. I've come across some brand new information. It's the same conclusion that the story's changed. And I'm not mad at where we are, but I don't have the changes and the substitution. 'Cause there's no such thing as perfect, nothing close. But you make me got lost in that man lost. If only you know me, I
Oh, right. Right, okay.
It's too far down. And perhaps we should wait until after the panel is done, otherwise we don't want to miss anything. So
Sure.
let's go back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry about this
Well,
erratic.
at least we know where it is.
Yes. So right. So let's turn it back onto us. And what do you know of Papua New Guinea? Do people know a lot about Papua New Guinea? No, they don't. They don't, for instance, know that Papua and New Guinea are two separate sides of it. But there's Papua and then there's Papua New Guinea. And Papua is an ancient word, and I don't think it's really apparent what it means and where it's from. But it's quite an ancient word, like the land itself. And of course, there is a terrible strife at the moment. So let's go a little bit away from, so we can talk while still having Gari's dulcet tones in the back, and also we can still see him then. But let's just talk a little bit more about what do I remember about Papua New Guinea, other than the fantastic contemporary. You can turn it on here again and go back and forth, and I guess what do I know? I do have some information. The sound, right?
Yeah, have to be like real close so you can hear.
But we do have microphones. Do you think we should test it just now? Let's just test it. Give me my microphone. We forgot we have microphones. So look, we're going to test this because I do want to talk a little bit about this fantastic country that is known as Papua New Guinea. Which is such a shame. Excuse me while I just put my waffle down.
So I just plug this in.
Yes, darling.
Here we go.
And hopefully now people can hear. That's your dark. Okay, now I hope that I have... Oh wow, this could be a total disaster. They could not have heard... They probably heard nothing of what we said. And we can't tell. I guess we can tell by, you know, what we can tell by. We might have to break this live up into little bits and pieces so that we can actually figure out if we have been caught talking.
Okay, so the green light's on now.
Okay, the green light's on now. So now are we talking?
So you want to do the closing?
Yes, okay. Sorry to do that because I can't be sure if anyone heard it. So just very quickly, I'm wearing a vintage jumper made in Australia, and I'm wearing pants made from Kirikin, the Western Australian-based brand owned by a First Nations woman. And the designs are all by First Nations artists, Western Australian-based. And these are wonderful pants, and I have this particular print I have in quite a few other garments, including a scarf, which I am going to wrap around myself very shortly, like now. So there you go. I hope I haven't made noise all over the microphone. I'm so sorry about that, but I won't do that right now. And what else am I wearing? I'm wearing a Bilam that I got in Port Moresby in 2016, and I'm wearing a dress by Lumai, by Drew Douglas. Lumai is an Auckland-based label, founded, created, concepts, brilliant, by Drew Douglas, Papua New Guinean ancestry from Rubal specifically, and from back when Rubal existed, of course. If you know anything about Papua New Guinean history, you know that Rubal is no longer there, a volcano a very long time ago. Unfortunately, that's what happened to Rubal. But while we're here this evening, this is an evening to discuss contemporary Papua New Guinea. Is this still blinking, darling? Good. Well, I'm really hoping that you can hear me. So this is to find out more about the contemporary side. So we've got Gari Guru right now on stage. Now, Gari is a young Australian of Papua New Guinean descent, ancestry. He hails from the Papuan region of PNG and describes himself as a multifaceted singer-songwriter. Gari incorporates the genres of pop, R&B, and island fusion to share his stories through music. Being able to draw inspiration from other Papua New Guinean artists while being based overseas, Gari hopes to pave the way for other talented Papua New Guineans to show that it's not crazy to dream of becoming a songwriter or a musician. This is something Dwayne and I talk about too, how it's important for other people from our communities that have been marginalized in the constructs to see that you can be a musician in in a Eurostream country, in a westernized country, if you are from a brown, black, Pacific Island, indigenous, First Nations community and culture. Because far too often we're told, no, don't follow your passions, don't follow the arts, don't follow your creativity. You've got to go and just work hard. So it's so wonderful to see people like Gari who follow their dreams, so young, but they're determined. It's not just passion, it's structure, it's determination. It's knowing what they want to do, and why can't they do it? What's stopping them? Nothing. Only their limitations if they believe that. And that's what Gari's doing, just showing that, look, there is no limitation. Look at him, up there, all Mr. Cool, sitting up there. Oh, yay. There you go. He'll be back. There's 2 sessions, so from 5:30 to 6 p.m. and from 8:15 to 8:45. There'll be a half an hour set in between the panels that we're doing.
I got one more song before I want to break and I'll be back.
So what can I tell you? So I'm not necessarily going to wing it on this one about all the information because I feel it's too important to get information right. So Papua is derived from a local term of uncertain origin. Now that's what I understand, because it is an ancient country. It's very, very old. One theory is that the name comes from the word Papua, named by the Tidore Sultanate, which in the Tidore language means not joining or not being united, meaning that there was no king who rules the area. Papua New Guinea sounds like it was one of the original free places to roam. It's very mysterious. I guess this is why we're here, to find out what it is in the contemporary world. We seem to think we know about Papua New Guinea, because all we know is about, of course, their living culture. And with its biological diversity, its cultural diversity, this is where the world's secrets could be. And something, destiny, even though it has been colonized, destiny has kept it protected, or Papua New Guinea itself has kept itself protected. However, it is cut in half. So I think we'll just go over here where I'd like to share some information. So Papua, is this still blinking, darling? Well, it must mean you can hear me. So Papua is a province in Indonesia. This is very contentious. Do you know the problem as to what's happening? Because right now Papua New Guinea is being torn apart, or well, not by itself, but by people who think they own it. Because see, Papua used to belong to Dutch Indonesia when Indonesia was Dutch. And now that Indonesia is self-governed, they still think they have the right. But I think it's time for us to go now, so we'll continue more about this. I'll tell you more about what's happening and why. And even though the Netherlands say that Indonesia has no right to, govern their own country, it's all very crazy. Indonesia doesn't want to give Papua up because they know how rich Papua New Guinea is. Diversity. So excuse me, we have welcome to the country, so let's go. Okay.
As we've all welcomed the country.
Oh, right. Sorry about that.
Just to give you a little bit of an insight of where you are and who we are. Born and bred in Bradford, the capital of Sydney.
Excuse me, that's good thing. Could you hold this bottle, please? Thank you.
No, not true.
Sorry, I just had to take, so that Dwayne could just test to see if you can hear us.
Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge our First Nations and traditional owners of the lands that you may have come from or work upon, and pay my respects to all our Aboriginal elders, all elders, past and present, also pay my respects. To all our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander brothers and sisters,
oh,
from
fantastic.
whatever Aboriginal island nation you may have come from, welcome to Gari Guru.
Thank you.
And to all our non-Indigenous brothers and sisters here this evening, a very warm and sincere welcome to you to Gari Guru. No matter where you've come from, whether it be across the seas, across the state or across town, once again, a very warm and sincere welcome to you to Gari Guru. And as I've mentioned many times before, was, is, and always will be Aboriginal land. Only three things short than that: coming, taxation and going. It's an honour and a pleasure to be here this evening to welcome one and all to Gadigal. Gadigal is one of 29 clans of the Eora Nation. The Eora Nation is bounded by nature's own. The Hawkesbury River to the north, the PNG to the west, and Georges River to the south. And in between those three mighty rivers is the Eora Nation. And in that nation there are 29 clans. And the clans land we're on this evening is Gadigal. On behalf of members of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council and of the Gadigal mob, once again, a very warm and sincere welcome to you to Gadigal. And as you travel across these traditional lands and waters, may the spirits of our ancestors guide, look over you, and keep you safe. So once again, on behalf of the Land Council and of the Gadigal mob, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle Allan, for that very warm welcome. It's always great having Uncle Allan here. And particularly great having him here tonight. We have a really special night to be here celebrating Papua New Guinea. It's a really fabulous thing about the night. And I'm not going to do anything about it because I'm going to introduce Sigrid, who's running up on stage. Sigrid is the brains trust behind tonight. She curated it. She brought all these incredible people into the room to celebrate Papua New Guinea. So I'm going to introduce Sigrid here, the amazing, amazing woman.
Hi, thank you all for coming out. Basically tonight is just an extension of the BILAS exhibition that's happening right now, and basically I wanted to give you just an insight, a small insight into PNG, that we're more than just the BILAS that you see up when you walk through the exhibition. So if you walk through that way, there's some films on display. There's also PNG fashion designers that are highlighted throughout the back, and then through the theatre as well. There's some short films, if you wanted to take a look as well throughout the evening. And just, thank you for showing up to celebrate PNG just in time for our 48th independence. So that's on September 16th. So I'm just going to introduce the next panel. It's going to be moderated by Cynthia. So she'll introduce herself later, but basically I am also on the panel. Sigrid, Tete, you can all come up now. Tete and Lungo.
Good evening, and I'm not going to say anything more because we do need to speak to these gorgeous people up here. First of all, we all would like to acknowledge this very beautiful and ancient land we are on, and after what Uncle has said, I'll leave those words to reverberate in your ears. It was so beautiful and welcome, but of course we must not forget we are all on unceded land, so we are welcomed, yes, but we must remember we are on unceded land, so thank you very much for welcoming us. Now, this panel, look, we know the living culture, so let's first of all talk about the BILAS here, because I really must show you what Sigrid is wearing. Now, Sigrid, if you don't mind, darling, could you please stand up, because Sigrid is wearing a design by the designer you should know, Lumai by Drew Douglas. Now, there is a Lumai garment just over there as well. Drew Douglas is based in Auckland, but he's from Rabaul, which of course, if you do know a little bit about the history of Papua New Guinea, you know Rabaul was affected by a volcano. Now, Drew should really be world famous. I also am wearing something from Drew. So that's another thing we're talking about, the contemporary side of Papua New Guinea. A Papua New Guinea that nobody really knows outside of the Melanesian area of the Pacific, because too often what people know of the Pacific is unfortunately the Polynesian side of it. So, my background, in case you're wondering why I'm here, just very quickly, I am from Fiji. I am of Indian ancestry. And if you're wondering why exactly I'm sitting up here with the honor of moderating this panel and the old woman amongst these cool young people, is because I have got great admiration for Papua New Guinea, not just the traditional Papua New Guinea, but the contemporary Papua New Guinea, because I had the very good luck of being asked to go into Port Moresby in 2016 as a mentor and workshops, etc., as a photographer for the premier fashion platform back then, the Stella Runway, which was hosted by the incredible magazine Stella magazine by PNG woman publisher Amanda Donaghy. So I got to see so much that blew my mind, ancient art and contemporary art, and what people are doing despite all the obstacles, despite being colonized, despite being told that they can't. What they can do is amazing. So this is why we have this panel, because we want to talk about some things. But we've got an Independence Day celebration coming up. Now, that was how many years now? 48, Sigrid, you said? So we're sitting in the country of colonizers. Are we allowed to say that? We are transparent and honest now, aren't we? We can say these things. So first of all, I'm going to introduce our wonderful panelists. Now, please, Tete Bakic, Thank you for being here. You look divine. I absolutely have to photograph you. Seriously, I'm a photographer and I'm itching right now. Tete's family. Well, actually, I will leave it for Tete to tell you. Tete, where are you from? Tell me. And I'll tell you what Tete does, but Tete can tell us where she's from. And where do you feel you're from?
Hi everyone. So my name is Tete. My family are from Gari Village and Korogose Village, which is Central Province, Papua New Guinea. And I'm also Serbian heritage and Aboriginal, Bindulkan Jujuru, far north Queensland mob, which is Cape York, Townsville Bowen region, and proud Torres Strait Islander from Mero and Eru. But tonight I'm really stepping into my Papuan culture and heritage, and I've got Mum here taking pictures.
Oh, how wonderful. Hello. Welcome. So Tete works in the Department of Indigenous Studies, Macquarie University, the Walumatagal campus, as the department coordinator, and is also currently a Master's of Research student. My goodness, I can barely brush my hair today. Her thesis is on traditional marking practices in Papua New Guinea, and Tete acknowledges Harumog, where country lives, whose country she lives on and studies on and works on. So tell me more about this thesis of marking practices and what triggered you into wanting to explore that. From what viewpoint? From the historical viewpoint or its relevance in the modern day?
So my grandmother, she has traditional marks. We have the same one cuff on our arm, and they hand tap and hand poke. So I started my marking journey a couple years ago, and I got my chest done just last year in Auckland. My marking artist is Julia Mungel. She's Mikio Village, Central Province, and I kind of wanted to embark on a journey of reclaiming my marks. It's a common story across Papua where settler colonialism happened. They introduced missions and disrupted our marking practices, but they're very much alive and well today. We're still wearing them. They're for different reasons than what our ancestors, my great-grandmothers had them, but we are, it's a living culture, it's still here, and through these marks, it definitely affirms my identity, and I have that sense of belonging everywhere I go. I see it. My younger sibling, she's 9, she looks at my marks and she sees that that's our culture, that's what it means to be PNG to her, and she even draws on herself because she wants those marks too one day. Seeing that is just really incredible.
So what are the reasons now for this generation? How does it now, you see these markings, you wear them in pride, what does that mean to you? You're part of a tribe, or you now are an ambassador for your tribe, outside of the tribe area?
I would say they name me and they place me, because the marks that I wear are specific to my great-grandmother and her sister. They were full-body reva, that's the word that we have for it. Every tribe and province has their own name for marks across the country. And I think the reason that we wear them today is to kind of make sure that tradition doesn't die. I have a couple of photographs of my great-grandmothers, and that's what I use as reference points. And it's sort of like, well, if we don't continue this tradition, then what happens, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, and I'm not gonna let these colonizers win, ever.
So you have beautiful cells in your body of ancient history. So what your markings are an encyclopedia. And so you also go of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. How does this all sit in you? What wonderful wings you fly on today. Tell me more about this. How do you connect to all of this? In this colonizer land that is very friendly right now, don't we agree? Right now, I think so. We're here in the Australian Museum. It's a step up. I think it's wonderful. Don't you? Don't you think it's wonderful that a country that was colonized is now a colonizer's country? And we can now talk quite freely about this. I think that is progress, even if it may not look like it. Even if it does look like a bit contentious and rebellious. I think it's wonderful that we can sit here and talk about that. So tell me about how everything else connects. You connect to the Aboriginal side, the Torres Strait Islander side. How does it all sit together? The ancient, does it all sit in harmony today? I mean, how does it weigh heavily on you, the responsibility of...
It feels really special to have my ancestors with me all the time, especially from all the different regions that I'm from, and I very much know that they would have traded and shared relationships and stuff with each other. Back in the day, you know, the land masses are super close. There are islands in the Torres Strait that you can walk across to Papua New Guinea. But yeah, I definitely want to hear from my other panelists.
Yes, we'll get to well, like, look, you must, because you're so fabulous, we must always talk about all these fabulous people. Now, we will introduce Uncle Allan. Uncle Allan is a writer, performer, and an activist living on stolen Bitchigal land. His portfolio includes poetry, prose, short stories, and essays. Wakina's work centers his indigenous, black, and queer identities, and is primarily about mental health, social issues, and environmental justice. Lungo, or Wakina, how would you prefer to be?
Lungo is fine.
So what pushed you into breaking free of the restraints put upon you by the constructs, and you decided to say, no more, I'm standing up for what is right, for myself, and for therefore the bigger picture? What pushed you into doing that? What inspired you then? What made you think I'm not going to be shy about what it is I want to express?
Yeah, I come from a bit of an unconventional background. Both my great-grandfathers, so my mom's grandfather and my dad's grandfather were both missionaries. So I don't really have much of a connection to culture as much as like my other peers would have. But I'd say that what kind of pushed me outside of like traditional like patriarchal colonial structures was being an artist and being a writer. I've always been creative my whole life. My dad's a musician, he's in a band, so I grew up just surrounded by art and music. And
so it was acceptable to express yourself through yourself, using yourself as the blank canvas.
Yeah, definitely. So so growing up I was a writer and as a dancer, and all of these things were, you know, being a storyteller is quite valuable back home, because that's just how our history was passed on. So
could you tell us a little bit more about home and history?
Yeah, so I'm from, each of my grandparents is from a different province. So my maternal grandfather is from Manus, my maternal grandmother is from Central. My paternal grandfather is from Millen Bay, and my paternal grandmother is from New Ireland. So I'm pretty mixed from like across the country.
Do you identify with, I know that you said you didn't grow up with culture, so is this what you seek with your writing, with your expression?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I wouldn't say I was absent from culture. I'm very much like a Papua New Guinean man. Like, I grew up in Papua New Guinea, surrounded by Papua New Guineans. It's just like a lot of the nuances that were kind of shaved away during colonization I don't have access to, but a lot of like our familial structures, our relationships, a lot of stuff like that, I still very much have a firm grasp on and have like no intention of leaving behind.
So that's just because you are an urban Papua New Guinean. So I think everyone thinks that every time they see, for instance, a person of Asian origin, I think they expect every Asian origin person to know martial arts. So I think it's something that every person of colour and culture gets sort of weighed down with, that we all have to be ambassadors of culture, rather than understanding that really, as something actually Sigrid said, that people get astonished, like, no, we actually do go to the supermarket, we drive cars and stuff like that. So something, a conversation we had earlier. So what I'm saying is that perhaps there's too much of not responsibility, but expectation that everybody from a country of culture then has to know every single thing about every cultural aspect, whereas actually a lot of people are urban people. They may not necessarily know more than the English that is the language of the official country, the official language of the country. So could it be that people do not understand outside of the countries we are all from, even origin-wise? this urban culture?
I mean, it's hard because Papua New Guinea is so diverse. We're arguably the most diverse country on the planet. And because of that, I know what it's like to be a Papua New Guinean from my family. But my family is just Papua and New Guinea Islander. I have no idea what it's like to be like a Highlander Papua New Guinean or like a Papua New Guinean from the Mamasio region. It's like, yeah, it's so complex because the culture we have access to is unlike other Melanesian countries where it's quite standard and uniform across the country, where even though there are regional and geographic differences, there's pretty much a standard across space and time, whereas in Papua New Guinea it's just so different.
And that's what people think, that if you're from Papua New Guinea, you know exactly what's happening in all other provinces or what somebody else is. But there's vast differences. What people don't realize about Papua New Guinea is it is incredibly, or they maybe do, but the biological diversity, the cultural diversity, the landmass itself is ancient. It's been there for 60,000 years or more, as have the people. They are related to the First Nations people of this land. So this is a very ancient land. And did you know that the banana originated from Papua New Guinea? Well, there you go, if you didn't know. So, of course, we'll move on to Sigrid. Sigrid is the event organizer, and she is, I guess we'll call you the facilitator, the communications person of Sydney Wantok Association. And Sigrid is the one who asked me to moderate this panel because Sigrid needs to be asked some questions. Now, a little bit of background. Actually, no, Sigrid, let's just go right to it. Why did you organize this event? Why did you want this event to happen as is, to coincide with this incredible exhibition that we know of Papua New Guinea? We're familiar with these visuals of Papua New Guinea. But there's something brewing here. Yes, there's something, what pushed you into saying, okay, I'm going to create a platform. I'm going to join hands with people who are willing to support. I'm going to do it. What pushed you? What is it that you're wanting?
So I guess it's grown up in Sydney, and as Longo was pointing out, there's so much, I guess, expectation, not really, not necessarily. People see PNG from one perspective, and there's so many different perspectives of PNG, just how we grew up, how we interact with the country, with our culture. Coming to the exhibition and seeing that's one take of Papua New Guinea. So, like I was trying to get into in the introduction, that's not all PNG is. Like, we're more than just our traditional BILAS or our face paints. We're so much more as a country, as a culture, as people. So,
and why is that important? Why is that important for everyone to understand?
Because I think for so long we would be othered if people don't understand our own culture or how we see it, but to make themselves understand us, they would then categorize us into.
I guess what then I'm trying to say is that do we just get othered regardless, just because we say we're from someplace and then automatically stereotyped? Is that, the reason for events like this is to show what happens outside of the stereotypes? And it's really hard because you don't want to rattle cages, but you don't want to offend anybody. But you do, I guess, for young people who express themselves through organizing events like this, from dedicating their lives and bodies to read walking encyclopedias, to using what they're born with, creativity, to express themselves through writing and through art. That's a way for you to say, we're here. Who is we? Who is the modern Papua New Guinean? From your perspective and from who you are. Who are you, Sigrid? The modern young Australian woman who perhaps really one day, you never know, she could be running the country, Sigrid. I certainly think you should. But who is the young Papua New Guinean now? Is this something that can be answered like that? What does the young Papua New Guinean want to see?
No, as a straight up answer, because you have Tete, you have Uncle, all my family, all my friends here. You can't just look at one person and be like, that's the modern Papua New Guinean.
Yeah.
I believe that we all take our cultures and then we create our own identities.
Sure.
Like Tepe has her markings. Again, even with that, we're all from Papua New Guinea, but I can't have that markings.
Yes.
So in that, understanding our own cultures, even seeing her and being like, oh, why doesn't Sigrid have that? Because I can't. Respectfully, I wouldn't do that either. That's not my...
So that's exactly, so even though you walk in the modern world, you are urban people, you have deep respect for your ancient practices and your culture because you understand that moves with you. Now where does tradition play a part in here? Because there's still issues with traditional parts of a country's way. So how do you view tradition in this? Is tradition flexible, do you think? Should it move with the times, or should we just leave it behind and progress?
I personally don't refer to us as traditional because anthropologists have always placed us as extinct, as dying out, as primitive, and that's not us because we've been here, we've been innovating. You can trace agricultural practices back thousands of years, and so no, I don't really use the term traditional, but like to echo what Sigrid said, we all show up in our complex identities as our ancestors did, and it doesn't make us any more or less Papuan, it just means we are a product of this time, and all of us choose to embody and walk in our cultures in our own ways, and all of that is absolutely valid. There are identities that we have here on the mainland, in so-called Australia, there are ones that we have back in our villages, there are also ones that we have in our home where we can kind of blend the both of them together. So it's complex, but it's also a really beautiful thing to be part of.
I also think it's important to ask the question of what tradition actually is, because tradition can be something that we've been doing for hundreds of years, but those hundreds of years have been, under the colonial rule of another country. So is it authentic to call our values and our behaviors and our activities in those times true tradition? Because those were, in all honesty, a trauma response to being colonized. This misconception that being traditional means being cultural in a way that isn't Western and modern, but in reality, being traditional in a lot of ways is reverting back to being under colonial rule. So I would argue that the three of us, what we're doing is subverting traditionalism and actually going even further back into the past and embracing what our ancestors were like pre-contact.
Fantastic. So may I ask you all now, what does colonization mean to you? And is it still invisible walls that you have to construct? Sigrid?
Definitely yes. We go through, I guess it's living life, especially in Australia, with people's, I'll go to perspectives, like how they'll see us. They'll see me and expect me to, worship the white man. And I go through that, from when I was younger, even to now, how they expect you to, wait on them.
Sure.
So I used to work hospitality before I started at the back, and even that alone, being spoken to as if you're stupid or expecting you to be less than, and if you do something so normal, turn up and speak like this, oh, you guys speak like this as well? It's yeah, we're regular people.
So that bigotry is based from fear, right? Because what else could it be based on? Why else would that happen? Does anyone have an answer for that? What causes bigotry? Does anyone understand why anyone would look at this? What do you think? Would you like to, may I give you the microphone? Excuse me. No, please, Candice, please. Thank you.
I think it's entitlement. It's a white entitlement. Oh, we're just so superior. And it's interesting because as I was just telling Sigrid before, my father was a doctor, a Hungarian refugee doctor. I was born in a camp in Germany. Anyway, he could come to Oz and be a labourer or work in Papua New Guinea in 1950. So my father worked his way up and he was Director of Public Health. Just when United Nations announced that the people of PNG were going to be liberated from us. And I remember in the office I was helping out as a sort of little girl doing something. And they said, oh shit, what are we going to do? Well, nobody bothered educating us. Yeah, and I remember the shock and horror. But I'm also glad to say my dad was a reasonably nice guy who wrote a little book about my Bougainville days, and he actually, some of the stuff is really good.
Thank you very much.
But anyway, it's entitled.
Sorry to cut you short, but we do. Well, that is, but then what we don't understand is why that entitlement exists. We can explain that entitlement exists, but what we don't understand is why it exists.
I would say that it's hardwired into whiteness. And I'm a writer and I'm an artist, but I'm also an academic. I study at university. I intend to further a career at university, and just studying politics, studying international relations. It isn't like some arbitrary thing where it's like, oh, why do people treat us like this? It's a system where people are being conditioned to treat other people this way. They're trained to look at other people as less than because their bodies, their culture, their resources, their everything has been dominated to further the material wealth of another culture. So it's just like we're not even registering as people to a lot of these like bigots, and it's hard to. I personally don't like talking about bigotry as if it's like a personal issue. It's a systemic issue that everyone suffers from. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Okay, Tiffany, can you add to that? Do you agree with what Uncle was saying?
Definitely agree with it. Colonization is intentional, it's insidious, and it's violent. And many settler colonial states like Australia, Papua New Guinea, parts of Africa, all different parts, we are subjected to that violence every day, and we resist and we overcome and we find joy in community and amongst ourselves.
What are the misconceptions people have of Papua New Guinea? Apart from everything that you've said about they consider just one big country and everyone you see from Papua New Guinea is representative of all of Papua New Guinea, and that, what is it that people don't understand about Papua New Guinea, about its diversity, and that's what diversity actually is? Is there anything that you want to say about its heart, about why it's so mysterious, why is it considered so unknown, and why, I'm sure you do know about the rifts in between, and that it's, not literally, but emotionally and metaphorically being torn apart, because to colonize a country, you want to take it over. How do you feel about that? Papua and New Guinea, is that contentious to talk about? Do you like to? Is it something, it's a hard thing. I'm sorry I had to ask that, but it's something that every Papua New Guinean has to live with and have in their heart, right? The separation, the rift between Papua and New Guinea.
Yeah, I feel like generationally we've grown up to sort of see Papua New Guinea as a whole, or at least I speak for myself, like listening to my parents talk or all the aunties and uncles. I feel like the effects of colonialism today would be more seen with that generation that lived through colonization. It was only 48 years ago, so my mum was 12 or something. Yeah, so they lived through that, so I think they saw how, it was British Papua and German New Guinea. So we are separated, like even like Tete he's from Papua, and then my family's from the New Guinea side of Papua New Guinea. So even that, I feel like colonialism has also separated us in that sense. Like growing up in Australia, in diaspora, I think you crave your countrymen. You want that community again. So I think we've grown away from that separation.
Sure.
Or learning to work together.
Sorry.
And I think more so on that is when we crave that finding each other in community. I met Sigrid back in 2021 at an event run by a Papuan, Mel Ree, and Gari was playing, and that's the first time that I heard him sing. And so we find these pockets of safety amongst each other in creative ways. And in academia, I have so many big yarns with Lungo about academia, and we love it because we get to fulfill that side of us. And then, I get to come to panels like this and talk and share and meet more Papuans. And it's yes, anthropologists have tried to make it divisive, but the thing is, we can talk about each other as one big community without taking away from the distinctness, without homogenizing it all and making it seem like, oh, we're just PNG. It's no, we see the diversity, the beauty within each other, and it's not constraints, and we have the freedom to do that because that is our community, our culture, and we can name ourselves and locate ourselves in those ways.
Right. And now talking about academia, do you talk about how it would be to make your cultural and your history, your historical legacy stories, your texts, etc., academic, to be brought forward as being studied academically, because we do all consider academia as the Euro construct is the academia that we all judge ourselves by. So when you do discuss in that, do you discuss how to decolonize it, to decolonize the education that we're all getting? How do you do that? How would you, everything you're learning and everything you are teaching yourselves, how do you pass that knowledge on to your fellow Papua New Guinean, fellow Pacific person, Melanesian person? What I feel is that the Euro construct academia, everything we learn, we're lucky enough to have that privilege of learning. And I think it's so that we can go and feed our own birds, yes? So would you ever want to go back into Papua New Guinea and educate, start the education system in a different way, to stop the colonization from the start, from the actual education?
I think that's a really tricky question because, as a person, you can't individually stop something as large and monstrous as colonization. But I have no interest in locking myself in an ivory tower, studying for decades, and then only talking to other people that study for decades. That sort of hierarchical knowledge keeping is true of Western academia, but I almost don't want to use the term academia because it's very evocative of something that's Western, something that's hierarchical, something that's gate-kept. What I like to use is knowledge systems. Knowledge systems are things that we're exposed to from the day we're born, and it's not just contributed by people with PhDs, but by the everyday person, by the people raising you, by the people nurturing you. And I think it's the way I combat colonization is the way I talk to my little cousins and the young people in my community, by being oh, you're more than just this. You're more than just the boxes you were put in when you were born. Because it's really complicated being a colonized person, because you're okay, I'm colonized, I'm growing up in a world that wasn't built for me, that's actively built to take from me and exploit me. How am I supposed to thrive under these conditions? So it's all about finding community and finding hope around the reality that is being a colonized person.
Continuing what Uncle Allan has about combating colonization. Sigrid, where do we start? And again, as Uncle said, it's tricky, it's hard, you can't just do it one person, you need community, but you also need people outside of community, which is why you and everybody at Tete Ngong, you do things so that people outside of community can see what community is like. So you can come here and see that, look, these are people who are brilliant and gorgeous and fantastic and making changes and paradigm shifters. You can walk over there and see some modern interpretations of ancient motifs done in modern silhouettes. You just heard Gari Guru, and what he is Papua New Guinean, but his music is global. So how do you combat colonisation when you are the very products, not products, my apologies, very evidence of modern global person of now? So who is supposed to actually do this? What more can you do? You are modern people of Papua New Guinean ancestry, ancient and modern at the same time. Is it really now, what more can you do to combat this? How you get judged and stereotyped. Sorry, Sigrid, I'm putting you on the spot here. Answer for your people kind of thing. Sorry about that.
I think just finding who you are, for me, that's really what I would put it down to. I think growing up, being younger, you want to fit in. You want to fit into all the white kids, straighten your hair, all of that. So you don't see other people that look like you, or you feel like, oh, if I'm true to myself, I'm going to be othered. I can't fit in. So I think growing up, realizing that my culture, my identity is so, it's great. Like, I know that, like, I have so many white friends, like, they don't have culture in the same sense that I do. So I can go and carry my bilum, and I'm not trying to be hip or trendy, but that's just me embracing my culture, finally. And I think that leads into finding community. You're in those spaces where you feel, okay, I have people that look like me, we have the same stories growing up. So I think once you get to that point, you're so comfortable in your own skin that no one else can tell you any differently. And then that's when you start breaking down all the walls, or I guess constructs of colonialism.
Sigrid, that makes you a bit of an ambassador. Would you consider that role? I mean, it's unfair, but unfortunately you do have to be what you want to be. We do have to see the representation, which is like sitting up here in this panel. The young side, not the old side, forget the old side. Sigrid, please, yeah.
Like I get told so often, like, oh, you're the first Papua New Guinean that I've met. Like, there's so many of us. There's so many of us, like, where are you looking? So I guess parts of it is where they want to look.
Oh, I love that. Where are you looking?
Like, if I'm in the spaces of, like, the art scene, or, like, things that I enjoy that maybe those European people don't like to go to, structured concerts, things like that, art galleries, and they're like, oh, they're doing the same things I'm doing, but they're not like me. Like, oh, okay, they're from PNG. So I think little things like that I come across, like finding so many people telling me that.
And may I ask, how do your peers, friends, associates, family feel about because I guess people of culture are always considered brave and bold and audacious. We have audacity. That's what they call confidence. It's audacity. So, I mean, how are you sometimes told, because we are people of multicultural, and sometimes people around us are sort of like, please don't do that, please don't stand out, please sit down, please don't make waves. So, does that happen to you? Does that happen to you today? Does that happen to you, Sigrid? Yes? Yeah?
I think, like, I'll let today talk up now, but I think we speak on that, like, when I say we, my family, my friends. Growing up, we moved here when I was 10, so my parents would be like, oh, don't say it, like, you can't say the wrong things, you can't, be too out there. They want to keep you safe just from how they see the world or what they're used to. So I think a lot of it is us breaking out of that, being like, we're assuring you we're okay, but let us do it. So I think I see that when we showed up at the NAIDOC ball, and I was so happy. I was like, oh yes, and she's carrying her PNG basket, and I was like, we look so good.
Yeah, we did. We looked great.
So just little things like that. I think we're on the path to like seeing all these young PNG people out defying colonialism.
And that's wonderful, and I think the more that young people, Australian young people of Papua New Guinean ancestry, the more they see older people being very audacious in the way they carry themselves and conduct themselves, and refusing to accept the constructs of colonisation. And that's what, that is quite a, it can be a lonely place, I'm sure. You've all felt a little bit like, oh my gosh, do we really have to keep doing this? And I'm so sad for you at this young age that you are, you're still having to fight against these constructs. Are there any questions for our panelists? Would anyone like to know anything more? I mean, look, what do you write about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this is going to be exciting. I hope it's not X-rated or anything like that, please. But
It kind of is.
okay, great. Read the excitement. Let's go. Let's do it. It's after dark.
I made a rule for myself a couple of years ago that I only write about Black joy. So like a lot of Black media, a lot of Black art, a lot of Black content is about the trauma that we go through. It's about the hardships that we face. And sometimes you just want to see like two Black people falling in love on screen. So so a lot of like a lot of what I write is about like Papua New Guinean people, Black people finding their joy. And yeah, so that's kind of what I write in fiction, but in nonfiction I do a lot of analysis in like the post-colonial realm. I'm just, especially as a queer person, it's just, Papua New Guinea is one of the only like theologically Christian states in the world. And like we have a constitution and laws that are reminiscent of like barbaric times in the UK, and because of that, the way queer people and trans people are treated in Papua New Guinea is quite barbaric, and it's like I can't change laws about that, but I can change the way people see queer people. I can write TV shows about two Papua New Guinean men falling in love and it being fine, and their families being in love with each other and rooting for them to get together in the end. Spoilers, they don't, but like stuff like that.
So it's not X-rated, it's life. It's beautiful, it's live.
Yeah, I left the X-rated part out.
Well, it's live, that's what it is. So if we don't have any more questions, I think we're almost, it's our time. So is there anything else you'd like to share? Is there anything else that you have, the lessons learned that they call wisdom? It's a terrible time. Young people have been forced to be wiser earlier because there's so much strife. Everyone's so worried. I keep losing this hearing. It's a Fiji hearing. It keeps wanting to slip. I'm so sorry. So how about we end off on a really lovely light note? So if I was to ask you, let's just say we'll say, that's a good question. If you were to describe yourself as a colour, Tete, what would that be?
I'm gonna go with green. Green's my favorite color. Yeah.
Why is that? What is this? Let's just dig a little bit more into the psyche for this. Why green?
I grew up in Cairns, so it's tropical rainforest regions, and Mum always took us to places we shouldn't have been fishing. I'm allowed to be there because I'm Indigenous and we can fish anywhere, but she's there like, well, let's drop a crate pot and get mud crabs and move to Sydney, and apparently they're $60 a kilo upwards, so we don't do that anymore. But yeah, I think of the trees and the leaves and the palms and ferns. I think of the weaving, so that's why green is definitely a place that's very close to me. And also, mud crabs are really green. So, yeah.
Okay. Sigrid.
I'd be blue for the ocean. Seems so. But yeah, blue for me, my happy colour. Seeing a sunny day and you see blue skies. So.
Actually, for me, I'd say blue is for you because you are a communications facilitator and you would know how to speak and connect. If you want anything done, by the way, Sigrid probably could run the country.
Pay her, though. Pay her.
Yes, well, so we'll do that. So, Nicole, what about you?
Green is also my favorite color, and green always reminds me of home because, unlike my fellow panelists, I'm not Australian. I moved here for.
Me neither.
I moved here when we were 10, sis. Anyway.
Still a PNG citizen.
Yeah, I moved here for university, and the first thing I noticed when I moved here was that the green was so much duller. Because I grew up in PNG, and then I grew up in Fiji as well, and the green was just so beautiful and vibrant, and was just about life to me. Like, life is green. So, like, I moved here at the peak of drought season, so it was like every time I'd see like a beautiful green, I just get reminded of home. So yeah, that's my color.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for your answers. So thank you very much, panel. I think we can call it. We're coming to a close now. So please make the effort now. Sigrid also manages that fantastic young man you saw entertain you, who will be entertaining us again very shortly. Gari Guru is managed by Sigrid, and if you need an upcoming, bright, young, fantastic musician that is just going to dazzle your crowds, well, there you go, that's Gari Guru, and Sigrid manages Gari, so there you go. And you must also come to the exhibitions that Sigrid hosts all throughout Sydney at sporadic times. Do come onto the Sydney Wantok Association pages, etc. Stay tuned, expand your minds, look at what you know about Papua New Guinea now and where you're sitting. Thank you very much for being here. Go and find out what Lungo's writing about. Go watch these extras.
I have a stand-up, I'm doing stand-up tomorrow night.
You must, go.
At the Meraki Bar, so 7 p.m., $20 entry.
There, you heard it here. You've got to go to this. Look, expand your mind. We've got culture. We're in the museum. We're not going to be archaic in a museum. We're going to be progressive. Tete, Sigrid, Lungo, thank you very much. Please, could we give our panelists? Thank you.
So I'm back again. This time I will moderate the top story that's happening now. So I would like to have Wapil, Sydney and Vic. We'll introduce them once they're on. now this talk story is different to the panel discussion because I just wanted to highlight what each of them do, or I guess the visibility that they create in their own individual communities or our communities as a whole. So I'll just go through, basically talk story, just called it that. It was just more chill, sit down, just get to know Wapil, Sydney and Vic. That's the idea behind it. So I'll just get Wapil to start by introducing herself.
Hi everyone. As Stephen said, my name is Wapil. I am a support worker and I also work with the Australian Museum part-time. And I run a page on Instagram called Pacifica Visuals that puts a spotlight on all the Pacifica. The aim to really show, I guess, the different culture and just the diversity in general, because I felt like there was a lack of that online.
Thank you. And Sydney?
Hello everyone, my name is Sydney. I'm the founder of a startup company called Uncle Allan. I'm in this startup space for the last few years now. Been developing B2B software, and so that's still a very new space where there's a lack of representation of Pacifica people. I've only ever seen 2 people, and both were from Fiji in the startup space and VC space, so it's an area that I'm passionate about seeing more about, seeing that education and awareness out to our communities so that we can see that as an opportunity to scale as careers.
And now, thank you Sydney, now to Vic.
Hi everybody, I'm Vic. I'm a co-owner of a coffee company called Quilla, and I have a store in Sydney, just down the road in Surrey Hills, and we also have a second sister space that we've just opened, based in the Northern Rivers in Bunjalung Nation, called Tampa, which is dedicated to First Nations people and giving visibility to Papua New Guinean culture and coffee, obviously.
Thank you, Vic. So, to start off with, these are just general questions for all 3 of you. In your respective fields, you are creating visibility. Why was visibility important for you?
Well, for me, especially online, I saw there was a lack of, there are 3 different regions in the Pacific, and there was just one region that kept getting put in the spotlight, and I thought that was just, it just doesn't represent all of us. So I thought, that was important for me to start the page to really broadcast that there are other regions, and we all come in different skin tones and hair textures, and so that's why I thought, I believe the visibility is very important for us to be out there. And also, considering we're in the Pacific, we're not shown that much in Australia as it is considered, it's our closest neighbor, so that's why I started the page.
So visibility in our industry, in the coffee field, is a little bit different. I think because it's a commodity and it's extracted out of countries around the equator, and a lot of those places are sort of, underrepresented. And for me, heritage-wise, PNG, not many people know, especially coffee comes out of PNG. We don't see it in Australia as much as we should, being the closest neighbour. So it's very important for me to start to get visibility, not just for our coffee, but for our culture and the people that haven't got their stories told. So I do that through our coffee company.
Wonderful, thank you. And Sydney?
For me, I didn't really think about it. I didn't think about seeing anybody that looked like me in the space to start. I just thought it was just a passion to do it and just go for it. And then it came later when you realize you're one in a space filled with people. Okay, this is something that I'm interested in. I'm sure other people are interested in it. And so I didn't go into it thinking this is something cool that I see a lot of people doing. It's just what I want to do. And then ultimately it evolved into a bigger picture. We can share this across where there is that education and bridge that gap that this is something potential for a lot of other companies to take up.
Yeah, but rather than visibility in terms of you seeing other Papua New Guineans or Pacific Islanders, you're also creating visibility for disability. Was that, when I asked about visibility, was that also something you thought of?
not really, again, because it all stems from passion. So it wasn't a goal or an agenda to push this across in the beginning. It was just, when I started out at SEEK, it was issues that I was experiencing when I had clients with disability, or I was dealing with like patients with mental health issues, or like people with an Asian population. So without SEEK, we're delivering data and event management services to include those groups. And so I didn't necessarily have a goal to think about, or how do I approach, or how do I sort of, just it wasn't strategic in any way. It was just something that I thought, these are issues that I'm experiencing. I'm sure other people are experiencing it, talked about it, and just went, I'm just going to go for it. I didn't want to wait around for that to happen.
Yeah, I think you led into my next question. Where was it a particular moment or a collection of moments or events that really made you feel like you had to start? Like you with the cafe, how did that come about?
Yeah, I think it's just, like Sydney's saying, you don't really think about it as your intention. You're just sort of doing your thing, you're just moving at your own pace, you're just being who you are. And at some point along the line, you start to realize that you're probably one of the few people doing this. I can only think of maybe 3 other like coffee companies that are owned by Papua New Guineans in Australia, or 4 maybe. And we're just sort of, we're just doing our thing, but we're not there like going, hey, we need to start like doing this in that way. It just sort of evolves to be this thing where you are becoming a leader in that field of like showing, I guess, like a different way of having business and being owned by, underrepresented people. So I think it's more of that sort of thing, yeah.
So I have touched on this, I think just regular conversations that we would have. Would you say culturally you don't like to talk about your achievements or personal achievements, or seeing it as, oh, look at me, look at what I'm doing? But at the same time, I think people are missing out on what like each of you individually bring. And would you say, you feel that like cultural perspective?
Yeah, I would say for me, maybe because I see them as small things that I was like, with how rapid the page is growing, I don't really take a second to really, reflect on how much it's grown in the past 4 years. So I would say, but I try to make a conscious effort to actually celebrate. It doesn't matter how small it is, but I would say I do kind of push it to the back and just look at it like, oh, it's another, it's grown, that's great, but yeah.
I'll co-sign that. I think for me as well is, I don't recognize that because I just think I'm not there yet. I'm still continuously building, and I think for me, stopping and always I guess it is important to celebrate the little moments, but then I just sort of see that as distraction sometimes, where you can stop and think, oh, I'm happy where I am. Like I always think bigger and bigger and bigger, which is I think part of my thing is always sort of slowing down and at least taking moments to think how far I've come. But I'm always thinking there's more to do, so why stop and just stay where you are when you can still do so much more?
Yeah, I think there's a part of it culturally, we've got that, let's say, same art, like we get a little bit shy about who we are and standing up and, voicing who we are to everybody. I think part of that is there, but also I think we have been just pushing our own agendas and working so much. By the time you do come up there in like events like this and you see all the beautiful people doing amazing things around, you start to then refocus on how far you've come and what you're doing, and that's when you're sort of like proud, but you're kind of like, oh, but stop, I'm just going to stay quiet.
So it's like going into Quilla Cafe for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's PNG coffee, like PNG artifacts on the wall. It was so subtle, but you feel like that's a little part of home?
Yeah, absolutely. I just, I think in the beginning I really wanted to put so many more artifacts up on the wall, but at the same time I didn't want to commodify our culture and be too far with that. Like I am PNG, so that's all I need. The coffee's from there, the name Quilla, it's Indo-Pacific name, and Biwagwa PNG, so it's already part of the story. And all the work that we're doing in the background with all of our social enterprise stuff in country it's already happening. So I didn't need to over promote it in that space. I think, it's important to still stay contemporary and stay, within the world we exist at the moment in Australia. So.
And Sydney, when you first thought of a startup, did you feel as though you'd have the support of your parents to embark on this journey, or did you think that's something so new to them that they might prevent you? My auntie's here. These are my cousins. My auntie's right there. But yes, Sydney.
Honestly, sorry mum, but I didn't care as much. I mean, I say that with love, but I'm of the belief that if it's something that I just want to do, I'm just going to do it. And yes, I'll take their advice. But it was something, again, so new for them that when they heard startup or, I'm saving all this money to just pull it into an idea that could fail, or could be successful, still there yet trying to find where I am, that I just trust myself. And then when they believed in me, that was just value on top of what I was creating for myself. So worst case scenario, if they didn't or if they couldn't see it, I was still going to do it in a way. Like I wasn't going to stop because they said no, I was still going to follow my dreams. And that's, I think, one thing that I would still say to a lot of people, especially Papua New Guineans or people with like really huge cultural influences of their parents, where that stops a lot of great ideas, where you sort of feel hindered with creative pathways or roles that are not typical to your parents' experiences, but for you, you see the way to get there, and it stops when they say no, and it doesn't have to, in a way. As much as you love your parents, it's still your life that you've got to live.
Like, just to follow up on that, do you think a lot of my parents, my mom's watching, like, you feel like Papua New Guinean parents would project onto you what, like, if they grew up in the village and they're the first to go to uni, things like that, they expect you to follow suit, like, you have to go to uni. That's the only way you can succeed, no other way other than what they know. Did you feel any of that?
Definitely. For both of us, I would say.
We're brother and sister.
Yes, I definitely gathered. Yeah, because our parents worked really hard, especially, our dads going through the whole university, coming here to study, and then, they saw it as their bread and butter, really, was to go to uni, get a really good job, whether it be a lawyer, doctor, engineer, and they were on us saying, okay, well, you've got the bachelor, when are you doing the masters? And then, okay, PhD, and it's just, it doesn't always match with what we want to do. Growing up here is completely different how they were raised in PNG, so that we're not always going to see eye to eye. So I think when he started up his startup out on sea, it was so great to see both parents on board. You really need that belief, because it's different now. You can't have the same expectations on us, though it is hard, but it can happen.
I'll just say also, I think with their experiences, like with Dad going through uni and then doing the whole educational course of becoming a PhD and a lecturer, that was his experience, lived experience. And so with doing this, and then with Mum also was a nurse, it was very traditional. And so what we're creating, they're experiencing for the first time as well. So all our ups and downs and the journey that we're taking, they're seeing it with us for the first time. So then we're just on it together in a way that if they had similar experiences, then I think we would be, I guess, more attentive to their opinions if they knew what to expect. But since we're also discovering that for ourselves, I think they've kept an open mind, which is what we've appreciated, and that they're just open to where this journey will take us.
Like, even going off that and you curating a social media page, even that in itself, like explaining that to PNG parents, like I post Instagram pictures.
Literally the first question, when are you getting the money? So we're not there yet. Oh, okay, but when will you start earning? Okay.
Like PNG parents, you want to focus on something, will it bring you money? I mean,
eventually, yes, eventually, yeah.
But these are questions we get asked. So I think in the same way, a lot of it is being focused on what you want to achieve, and that they'll eventually get there. It's a journey.
Because I think their main focus for us is actually to create, stability in our home life. Essentially, they want to see us, get our own house and live a good life, because that's what they worked hard for us in order for us to come here, get a great education, and pretty much grow up here. So I understand where they're coming from. Patience is key.
Yeah, and again, a lot of things have changed from the time that they were young, and living in PNG versus living in Australia, you have so many different opportunities, and even for you, right? Like, was it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a pretty, I guess, like a different upbringing to everybody else in this context. Mum and dad, business owners in Papua New Guinea, so I spent most of my childhood in the islands. And then eventually folks had a bit of money to send me to boarding school for a few years. The expectation after boarding school was always like, you're going to go to uni, you're going to do all of these things because we paid for education in Australia, you're going to be successful, whatever that means. And then I went back to PNG and hung out for a couple of years, like, what are you doing here? Why don't you go back to Australia and get work? So yeah, I mean, there's different ways. I think Papua New Guinean parents now looking at that. I mean, they're still very old school in their thinking, in that space. But after what I've created and worked on my own terms and done over the last 2 decades of living in Sydney, they've completely flipped that way of looking at the world. So that's kind of really awesome to see them come to it and accept that nowadays. Yeah.
Did you always want to work with coffee?
It was kind of something that had always been part of me. Like in my childhood, when we were living in Hagen, we lived out in the village on a coffee plantation. So I've always been around coffee and I'm fascinated by it. So I always had something there. It wasn't something when I finished school and was like, I'm going to go and be a coffee grower, or I'm going to go and roast coffee. I had no idea. It just sort of came a little bit later on, but it's always been a part of my life. So yeah, it's sort of just something that I'm doing naturally now.
I have this conversation with Gari. Do you guys feel like PNG parents would have reservations or hesitations towards your goal until you succeed? And then they're like, oh, I knew it. Like, I supported you all along. Do any of you experience that?
I'll probably say, for me in the beginning, yes. But now they're more understanding. So, I would say they're content with where I am right now, yeah.
Yeah, same. I think in the beginning when they didn't know as much as what to expect, it was the question of, okay, we'll just wait and see. But then now that they see, a few years into the game, I've built a small team, I'm making traction. It's like, okay, I get it now. I'm, again, content. I'm just happy to see where this goes.
I mean, it's a funny question. Like, my mum still worries. She's just like, you work too hard, you're working too much. When are you gonna settle down? But I think she forgets that I really enjoy what I do, and I do it because I love it, and that's why I work a lot, because I'm just in my field and just doing my thing. But yeah, she always is really worried about me. You got to take your holidays, you got to take care of yourself and stuff. She can't help it. PNG stuff.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, this is the idea of this was if you guys didn't know, these people who happen to be from PNG. I personally think they're doing great things individually with their own spaces. Pilla, even up in Lismore, I think you're doing great things. Step back with the flood, you guys picked up. Even your little yarns that you have for the community, I feel like you're doing a lot within the space.
Yeah, I mean, our space up in Lismore is really interesting. It's really, it's the first time I've ever seen something like this. Really be driven by the community. So after being hit with the flood last year, we were pretty much not going to rebuild the place. We were 2 weeks away from opening. The flood hit, demolished everything, stopped all of our plans. It wasn't until a little bit later on, after the second flood that hit Lismore, that a couple of our friends who co-run Blackfellow Book Club, which is an online Indigenous book club platform, they were they use our space to have a in real life library, reference library of all Indigenous literature and storytellers. And they said to me, don't worry about the books, bro. we'll get new ones, you have to do this, the community needs this space to reopen. So it was really them that helped drive our motivation to reopen and do the space. And ever since we've done that, we've had so many events there that have been hardly anything to do with coffee, but just about like visibility and holding a safe space for community to come together and just share stories and yarn and all walks of life really. But mostly just the intention is to start to learn about each other's different cultures and so on, you know. And it's just all the Indigenous that do it, and you know, allies and the non-Indigenous people come together, and there's a lot of talks that happen. We have panel discussions in there as well, led by the Black Book Club women there, and it's just amazing to see how a space like that and a platform like this that you're hosting can really bring community together that hasn't really had that chance, you know, to have that happen. So I think creating space is really important, and that's what that has become, more than a coffee shop.
Beautiful. Even the last, I guess this is how I met Dusk as well. It was through an event that Vic and Mel did at Quilla with the Bilums. So we all turned up, and I think that's another thing that brings PNG people together, sense of community. It's like showing up just to support. If we find out someone's from PNG, you just want to turn up just to show support. And even what Vic was doing, like he focuses on coffee, but also helping the communities. So that was, I mean, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, so I guess that's the other part of our business, our social enterprise side of our business that we do is we bring Bilums in from Baroka through the Blue House, and also through I think the now rebranded, relaunched Project 2 Mile from Maggie. She's doing an amazing job there. We source Bilums from them, and then we sell them in our spaces, and we use the money to go back and buy more Bilums off the ladies that like make them back in those projects. But through that initiative, we also raise funds to do other women's health campaigns. And in June this year, we went back to PNG for the first time since the COVID times to go back and do this donation drive, which is really led by my wife, by Melissa. And we handed out like all these free reusable women's menstrual pads to the community out in the village who would never get this sort of stuff before, and that kind of work is where we really like focus on through our business. So doing events that like the Bilum Night, raising funds with Bilum sales to go and start recycling back into parts of the community that we engage in coffee, to sort of get them in a space of feeling, you know, valued.
So just while we're talking about Project 2 Mile, so there is a table set up with 3 Bilums from Project 2 Mile. So if you wanted to head over, see how you can support. So Maggie, who founded Project 2 Mile, which was called Bilums and BILAS, different that's a baskets. Bilums and Baskets, they're now Project 2 Mile. The name derives from where it was created. They wanted to focus on the settlements of Port Moresby. So that's where it started with 2 Mile. So if you head over there, the money goes directly back to the women. There's no different organisations. It goes straight, just as what Vic was saying. So, yeah. Mobile, where do you see Pacifica visuals heading?
Well, I hope it continues to grow online, because I do thoroughly enjoy the community that I've created, because it's always fun to see people sending their submissions, or even when I post an image, there's always someone saying, oh, that's my aunt, or that's such and such. So it's always great to put a name to the image, because I tend to focus on archival images, and not a lot of them have names or stories behind it, and they're usually not taken by us for us. So I think that's important to put, I guess, a name to it, and also show that we're more than just the photo that's been taken. The future of Pacifica visuals, I would like to see a physical space, definitely, an interactive space that's, of course, run by us for us, and also open to non-Pacifica people, because I think it's important that everyone gets, an education on Pacific.
Do you find it Oh, yeah, you can give her a clap, yes. But I just wanted to say, do you find it like an educational project as well? You're teaching people?
Yes, visually, because yeah, that's how I learn. I'm a visual learner, so, and I've always found that, you know, looking at past images, you know, it's so nostalgic, but it's also upsetting when there's nothing to it, really, but yeah.
I guess from what Taylor was talking about with her markings as well, like bring that, you know, it's not in the past, it's still existing right now. And Sydney, where's Allan Speak leading?
Well, for us, we've got some exciting updates, exciting new partnerships. They haven't been signed on the dotted line yet, so I won't be able to say, but it's receiving good traction. And I think once people take notice of what you've been building for a while, and I think also building your credibility is an important journey, and we speak about it, it didn't stop and then you're just here. It's sort of years of hard work or years of thinking of could this work, could this not work. And so for me with Allan Seek, we're heading in a direction where we're scaling. We've got a few partnerships now across Australia, and it's just about getting into the hands of consumers and
And Vic, do you have any upcoming projects or anything the community could support?
We've always got lots of stuff happening. Yeah, I mean, we do a whole bunch of, like I was saying, talk series at our new space in Lismore. There's probably about 3 things that we've got planned throughout the end of the year. Some of it's run by Blackfellow Book Club, others are run by us in-house, where we're going to start talking about food security and that within the coffee value chain in our space, and we'll run that through the summer. We've been planning to try and do another Bilum night here, because everyone keeps asking for it, so we're going to need to organise that. But we also have a project that we've been working with marginalised coffee farmers in the Asaro region, just outside of Goroka, and that's a bit of an ongoing thing that's been happening, but we're soon to try and launch like a bit more of an engagement platform for that, and try and find some people that want to come up to Goroka and start doing some research on how we can better help these farmers.
Well, exciting stuff to come for everyone, but does anyone have any questions in the audience? They don't want to. They don't want to answer any more questions. No. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add, wanted to say? Maybe about PNG, maybe about just community?
There's the BILAS exhibition. Do you check it out?
It is awesome. If you haven't been down there, it is something to see.
Go check it out, just as an extension of everything you've heard today. And also, please go in the gallery. There's different little short videos, films. There's an episode of It's Fine, I'm Fine by Rennie Mocky. So if you have a chance, go in there. Shane Abel, he's a videographer, photographer in PNG. His video is also playing there. There's Lumai, so Drew Douglas, his final work, he also has a video showing in there. And if you do know Leslie Wangambo, he's one of our PNG artists. So he has 2 short, they're really short documentaries, like trailers onto what inspires him to paint. So if you have time, just make your way through Wild Planet, and then there's a theatre that way. Yes. Thank you.
go now. Let's go and should we go for a walk down the exhibition? It has to be quick because I also want to go and see all the balloons and also of course all the fashions. So let's go. So now I think we've got to actually put the microphone in so that we can I can talk because you know I've been known to do that. I'm really good at that. This new balloon, darling. Well, I hope you're enjoying. Is that on me?
Yep.
What? Okay. Well, I hope you're enjoying the panel conversation so far. And now we're going to take you for a walk. Okay. Through.
Just stop. Turn around. Sorry.
Tripod first, darling.
Huh?
It's like, oh my god! And we've lost the you know, there's what is it called? I can't remember what it's called. It's a mouse, a rat, or something. Oh, there it is. Thank gosh. But I guess we can do now. So now, what do we need to talk about now? Oh, so hello. Well, I do forget. Luckily, I don't forget too much. So I'm not swearing constantly. It's always a bit disconcerting when you meet people say, "Yes, I watch you all the time." It's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I wonder if we can hear me. Well, I can only hope we can. So I'm going to just put this in the bag. And now we're going to go for a little walk along that way. I'm going to leave this rubbish here. And we're going to walk and we're going to go and see the balloons. Oh yeah, that's right. We can hear me, can't we? Because I hope you can hear me. But is this green thing blinking? Okay, well then clearly they can hear me. Now, first of all, let's because this is also contemporary. We're talking about the contemporary side, of course, and this is why we're here this evening to marry the contemporary with the traditional and the ancient. And this is the contemporary, the urban, the future. What we have here are two of the Pacific's most incredible designers, and I say that and I stand by that, and I've said that ever since I first saw them in 2016. This is by Lumai by Drew Douglas and Iara by Genevieve Igara-Falave and Henry Iara. Now people Wantok will be familiar with Wantok clothing in Papua New Guinea. Well, that's who Genevieve is from, and Henry Iara is the artist who created all the motifs. Now, how wonderful. I have such a lot to do with these two wonderful designers. When I met them in Port Moresby for Stella Runway, I was absolutely blown away by how just brilliant. I mean, Drew was educated in Auckland. He studied fashion there. Now, this dress was for his final, and we're going to go and see it. It's playing in the theatre. He had well, we'll have it on the website. I'm sorry, but this was part of that wonderful movie that's created for Madepai, about motherland. Drew is very connected to his motherland. He was born in Rabaul, and I guess the reason it could be another reason because Rabaul no longer exists, unfortunately. So that connection, you know. Rabaul. Okay, I'm very sorry about that. My husband has just corrected my pronunciation, and I'm always very, very embarrassed when I don't get a pronunciation correct. So my deep apologies. Rabaul. Sorry about that. Back to Drew's birthplace, Rabaul. Right? I'm saying that. I'm so sorry. Very fast. So, but of course, you saw Sigrid. I think we did show you Sigrid. You may have seen it on the panel. Sigrid is wearing lumai, and I do actually know usually the names of all of these garments, etc., because each garment designers name their garments. So, like, I did know what these were called. Mary pants, Florence pants. I don't know, but it's the Francis Piquet print from Kirakin, which is a Australian brand owned by a First Nations woman and designed by First Nations designers, artists. The prints are by First Nations artists. Now this, actually, I'm wearing a dress underneath my jumper, and this is the Nirkut dress, and I will explain to you another time because it's currently slipping my mind as to why it's called that, but I think it's because of the fiber that is used to weave, etc. So there you go. So this is a very story. There's a story to this dress. There's a story to everything Drew designs. Likewise with this. So this is a two-piece from the collection in 2016 that debuted in Port Moresby and then showed to great triumph in Sydney at Pacific Runway, the Southern Hemisphere's most prestigious platform for fashion creatives. So Iara debuted there, and Genevieve was in Sydney. She got mentored a mini sponsorship or a scholarship, sorry, not sponsorship, with Raffles College of Design, which is no longer existing, unfortunately. But when it did, it was, I would say, New South Wales' most multicultural fashion college. It was absolutely wonderful. Students from all over, and they had a close association, which I facilitated because I thought there was a wonderful marriage, and it was wonderful to see Genevieve bloom, and under mentorship mine and Sabi Sorabi, who was with the fashion marketing department, the head of or head teacher there at Raffles, and it was amazing because we went into Port Moresby not expecting. We're not people like that. Like, I'm certainly not like that. I didn't go into Port Moresby thinking, oh look, I'm here and I'm going to tell you all what to do and how to do it, etc., etc. This is an arrogance, unfortunately, that stems from my country of birth, Fiji, because Fiji likes to think we're the best in the Pacific. And look, we're not wrong, but it's wrong to say. look, it's wrong to say that we're the only. Okay, so how about that? Fiji is fantastic. It has the potential to be more than fantastic. But anyway, we'll talk about all that another time. So we'll keep moving to the rest. Now this dress is by Sarah Todd, and the label is called Papua New Guinean Kala. So it's spelled PNGIAN Kala. So I do know a few things about Sarah. For instance, Sarah was once Miss Papua New Guinea. And what else do I know about Sarah? Well, I have photographed Sarah's collections in Port Moresby and also in Sydney. So that's a piece from, I can't quite remember which collection. I used to know these things. But when we show you later photographs, etc., we will tell you exactly what collection, what year, etc. But I do know a lot about Papua New Guinean designers because I own a lot of Papua New Guinean designer clothing because I love Papua New Guinean designs. Now this is by Taboo. This is also, I can't quite remember which collection. It may have been 2018 that Taboo showed. And what a fantastic collection. It was very well received, real structure. I mean, this dress is, I think I had said in the previous live when we talked with Sigrid, I had said that I had misplaced something. So this actual, just in case you're wondering, well, look, that looks a bit precarious. That looks like a wardrobe malfunction. I'm sorry, I'm touching your breasts, dear mannequin. But it looks like, oh, by the way, I really should say this. So I have talked about the fashion college that used to be very much involved with Papua New Guinea and mentoring fashion designers, etc. But I really do need to give a big shout out to Billy Blue College Fashion School in Sydney at Ultimo, because they have very kindly let us borrow, or let Sydney Wantok Association and Sigrid and the organisers of this event borrow these incredibly gorgeous mannequins. Unfortunately, they know they know me, so I can't run off of them. Oh, God, I sound like a bloody kleptomaniac. I'm not that, really, but these are really nice. Oh, yeah, thank you, darling. I'm carrying all these things. So, Taboo. So this, actually, on the runway, and this ensemble comes with a yellow top that sits inside. But it's somewhere else inside my wardrobe, but it's a fantastic garment. It looks really wonderful worn on the runway. So now what else can we show you? We're going to show you billows. Come look. And these billows, now please introduce yourself, madam. And we'd like to know who you are. You are a star. This is Sigrid's mother.
I'm Marie, Sigrid's mom.
And what have we got here, Marie?
We've got billums from Project 2 Mile, which is run by Maggie.
Yes.
And Maggie lives in Brisbane. So what she does is she gets the ladies from 2 Mile Hill to get together, weave the bilums, and then she brings them down to Australia and she finds the market for them. I think Maggie's just opened up a shop in Brisbane.
Yes, she has.
And she's got her details on cards that I'm giving out to people tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, so if they want a bilum to support the women back in Port Moresby, especially in the 2 Mile Hill area, that's the place to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marie. And so now we'll just hold these up. Marie, thank you so much. And so we'll have this information for you also in the body of this tablet. Marie, thank you so much for your time. Now, what I do need to also say, so Project 2 Mile. So currently, if you go onto their Instagram feed, you will see a new set of photographs. And my husband's there too, and I'm photographed as well. And they look, it looks stunning. And then there's Mags, who I also had recommended. Mags is also a Stylander cover girl. Sorry, oops, I forgot to talk into the microphone. But look, we need to talk a little bit more about Maggie, because what I really liked about this, usually when we have people with bilums in Australia, let's go to the light here. Usually, come over here, darling. Oh, right, is this light good? Okay, I like this light. I do like this light. Well, we do like. We're always about the light. So, but Maggie is a Papua New Guinean woman, and we will have an interview coming your way shortly, and it'll be on the Wanderer. Actually, Wanderer is the supplement we have on the Stylander, and Wanderer is dedicated to the people of the world, primarily the Pacific, because the Pacific people were the voyagers and they're the wanderers, and no matter where they wander, they still have their home in them. So Maggie wandered from home, and she's in Brisbane, but she's a Papua New Guinean woman, and there's more information for you. We will let you know. And Maggie started this in July 2020 to help marginalised women who live in the squatter settlements of Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea. And Maggie has written that their aim is to empower women and their families who live in the squatter settlements to have access to their day-to-day needs. So proceeds from the sales of Project 2 Mile bilums go into helping these women and their families. So these are the bilums. But there's more. You should look at the website. So Dwayne, actually, let me just show you. Dwayne is carrying a Project 2 Mile. Now, Project 2 Mile has just recently had the name change, but prior to that, it was bilums and baskets. So that's fantastic. And as I was saying, what I really enjoy about this is that Project 2 Mile is founded and run by a Papua New Guinean woman. Too often in Australia, we do see people who mean well and who want to do a lot to help, but instead of handing over the reins, I think it becomes too much of a saviorism aspect to it. And we won't talk about it too much because we're listening to some beautiful laughter, what we in Fiji call Kayla. And it's just, I love an island, big-hearted laugh. So what we are going to do is actually, we're going to go around here and we're going to go to the theatre and just see what's on over there, because there's a lot of, like Drew's video and a few other things. So let's walk. Let's go to the museum. Look at this. Wild planet. Welcome to life. Life is all around us. Yes, it is. I love it. I don't really know where we're going now. Okay, I think over here. Isn't this spectacular? Fantastic. I knew we were close. I don't know how close. Okay, well, I think we came in a bit late. Okay. So these videos will be available. So right now there's, where is my tablet on? Because I do need some information. But I do think perhaps we shouldn't just disturb all the people watching, so we should go. So I will explain what's happening in the theatre. So perhaps we can stand over here, darling, and the light. Where's the light? We must always find the light. Okay, great. So what's happening in here is, I'll get it to you in a moment. Oh my gosh. So, yes, it's the theatre, what's been playing are little movies, and right now we were about to see a little video documentary about Leslie Wengembo, who is a renowned artist of Papua New Guinean ancestry. He's from Papua New Guinea. He's recently graduated from the National Art School in Sydney. And in recent years, his work has focused on hyper-realistic portraiture, mainly capturing indigenous faces dressed up in their traditional attire. We've seen these up close, Leslie's imagery. We'll have that for you on The Wanderer this week. Lots of things. We just wanted to wait until this evening to really have it so you can be immersed in Papua New Guinean culture, contemporary culture, as well as their ancient history, which they all incorporate into everything. People of multicultural do that. We step forward. I mean, look at what I'm wearing. I may be wearing, maybe it's eccentric to you, but look, we're going to have to find some steps to show some. We'll go and stand on the steps, shall we? Okay. There, see? And so I'm wearing a mix, as fashion is what I say. It is a manifestation of your expression. It's how you show your identity. It's really how you show how you are feeling today. Well, certainly for me, that's what I use fashion for. I use it to show how I am feeling. And today, I am feeling this way. I'm feeling I need to show solidarity for people who don't get that solidarity, who get tokenism, a lot of it, who get mouth service, lip service. They don't get what it is they really need, and that is equity. Anyway, let's go back to what I was saying. So what is happening in the theatre over there, which we just walked out of, is that it's a theatre screening of works by Wendy Mock, Drew Douglas, Cheyenne Abel, and Leslie Wengembo. So hopefully we can have access for you some other time, in some other way. We'll have the links to everything that you need to see with timestamps when this is eventually uploaded to YouTube. Now let's actually go and see BILAS. Shall we go and do that? Let's go this way. Right. That's Gari currently singing and entertaining. Ooh, look at this lovely. I might take a photograph of this. It looks quite lovely. Just this from this background. You know, I constantly forget about turning on the. I'm just going to do a little bit of. Oh, I can't at the moment. All right, doesn't matter. I was going to change the. There are times when I do miss my actual SLR. I do love this mirrorless Sony. Sony, if you're listening, we love it. I love the Sony. I love the Sony Hypno. Oh my gosh, am I doing some product placement? I'm embarrassed to be here right now. No, I'm not. I do hope it is recording, so I'm just going to
Thank you, I will.
Look, I hope you enjoyed the panel. You know, we do need to get to the bottom of all of these things that we need to talk about these things, you know? It's that line. Maybe they need to turn around and I can take photographs of everybody. Everyone looks so happy and lovely and colorful. Should we go to the BILAS Museum? Let's go to the BILAS Museum.
She's in the front row, so go annoy her.
Is this Gary's girlfriend? Gary's girlfriend? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm gonna do the song I wrote with her sister, Bessie. But Bessie, she's not here, but she was. So we got 10 more hours to talk. But 45 minutes down, we said that we bored you got so I'll get up with
Oh, he's so lovely to listen to, really. It's just, it's what's annoying is that people, when someone hears that someone is from a country like Papua New Guinea, they expect that musician to then sing in the language that the country of origin, or to sing about Papua New Guinea. That's why I get a little bit annoyed that every person of culture, multiculture, has to then be always, I'm going to say burdened with the weight of telling the stories in the traditional ways. But Gari is telling a story in a different way. It's a modern day story. It's evolution. It's contemporary. It's urban. It's the world. It's the world. Alright, well, we're going to now go this way. We're going to go and see BILAS, living culture. How are you feeling, my darling? So we've got to go down. And, look, it's really lovely it feels significant. And I hope, oh goodness me, this escalator, hello? Hello? Goodness, this escalator is trippy, darling. Goodness, usually we like to walk down escalators. We're not very, is this still blinking, by the way? Oh, good. We do like to walk down escalators, but this is so steep. I feel like I'm going to... And look, frankly, I'm just, a little bit tired because I'm an old woman. Look, Papua New Guinea, look how beautiful. Wow. Unfortunately, I do not know much about the photographer, but again, this is discovery. We're doing things live to discover together. So, look at this. Incredibly, wow. That's big. I don't think anyone really realizes. I mean, you had to remind me. You do. You're wonderful in that way. And you said, well, look how many people live there. So Morobe, who's from here? So this is where Rabaul was, right? There's Florence Joke Kamel, who is also going to be featured in The Wanderer this month. From there, gosh, I know people from Sepik. I know enough to recognize via features. It's wonderful. I love how you can recognize a person's origins by their features sometimes, and it's very much true in Papua New Guinea. It shows you also how vast it is that you can still recognize people by features. So it's a huge, huge country. Look at that. Wow. And surrounded by incredible beaches that people will never see because, tourism, unfortunately, is not an industry in Papua New Guinea, which is sad. But also, perhaps I'm now starting to think, darling, that it may not have been a bad thing, not in terms of economy, of course, but tourism is such a precarious industry to base one's economy on. Look at what happened to Fiji during the pandemics. But because look what could be hidden amongst all of this.
They are still hidden crabs.
That's right. Right, you know, that's right. You know that. Yes.